So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host Phil Smith, aka Phil the Filipino, and joining me as always is your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And Eric, here we are, beginning of the year. I think this is our fourth Foresight episode, either third or fourth. I know, let's see, we did Gefiltha, we had Eli, so maybe this is the third. And then we have, of course, another guest here this year as well that we'll introduce in just a moment. But typically we like to get this episode out a little bit earlier, but, you know, things happen and here we are. We still got 11 months of stuff to look forward to. And, you know, maybe we'll look back a little bit at some exciting things that did happen in the month of January. But Eric, this is always a really fun episode. And again, as I mentioned, as always, we have an awesome guest that is returning to the podcast. So can't wait to talk to you guys about, you know, all the things there are to look forward to in 2024.
It's going to be a hell of a year. As we say every single year, it's essentially repetitive, is this early excitement in the first month of the year, looking ahead and seeing what we were right about and wrong about when the beginning of the next year rolls around. So I'm sure some of those conversations will come up as well, Phil. But we are here to look ahead, some foresight and predictions, and we're going to do that with none other than Dylan from Your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers. You guys have likely heard about not only their show, but their co-hosts, who we have collabed with several times and will continue to do so throughout the year. So Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. Are you excited to talk about what the year has to offer?
Oh yeah. So thank you guys for having me. I am excited to talk about this coming year. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't even realize was coming out as I was putting this together that I am now excited for, having kind of looked through all of this. So yes, for sure excited.
And who knows what memes we're going to get in 2024. Like 2023 was absolutely insane. I can't even, I thought about it today. I can't believe 2023 gave us the submarine. Like that seems like so far. That seems like so long ago. We got Cop Slide out of it. That was a great time on the internet. Man, who knows what 2024 is going to... I mean, we've already had Sydney Sweeney taking over Twitter in 2024, so it's going to be a great year, and we're really, really excited. And as Eric kind of alluded to, this is a pretty straightforward episode. You know, we want to give you guys things to look forward to in the upcoming year, and there is certainly a whole lot to discuss, so we're not going to delay that conversation any further. If you want to know where to find other episodes of the Wait For It podcast and Your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers, make sure you stick around to the very end, and we'll let you know where you can find all of that. So guys, let's go ahead and just jump right into it here, and we're going to do this in a specific order, unlike past years where it's just been absolute chaos. So we're going to try and tidy it up here a little bit, and we're going to hand it over to you, Dylan, first. We're going to start off with the category of films. So any movies that you're looking forward to here. I mean, it's 2024 is a really stacked lineup. So you can go multiple directions here. So what are some films that you were looking forward to in 2024?
Yes. So the first one that I've got on my list is a movie from 2023 that, because of the writers and actors strike, got delayed into 2024, and that is Dune Part 2. So I am a big Dune fan. I think Dune was one of the first like big sci-fi books I ever read. Like I think I read it back in middle school, which is amazing because I look at it now and I'm like, I don't know that I have the patience to try to read through this book. But it's always been like, I watched the like 1970 something like Dune adaptation that was very mediocre, but was the best that existed for a long time. And then like somewhere in like the early to mid 2000s, Sci-Fi Channel made like a mini series of Dune, which was actually a pretty good adaptation. It was just the CGI has not aged super well. And it was Sci-Fi Channel, so it was never going to. But I've been really enjoying like the sort of Dune resurgence that's been going on. I really had a fun time with the first Dune film. I personally wasn't upset with the bait and switch of like, hey, we're gonna show you Zendaya in like all of the trailers, and then like she's gonna be in the movie for 5 minutes. So, and this is the part of the book where like stuff happens, like a whole, like, not that nothing happened in the first half of the movie, but the first movie was like kind of setting everything up, and then this is the part where everything's gonna pay off. So I'm really excited about Dune 2. I am also looking forward to Furiosa. So I have not been into like I haven't watched most of the old Mad Max stuff with like Mel Brooks or whoever. But I really enjoyed the new like Mad Max Fury Road 1 that they made. And so that was really good. And so Furiosa is kind of set in the same sort of setting, like kind of carrying that torch forward, it seems like. And so that one seems really cool.
I was gonna say Mel Gibson for Mad Max. Is that what you meant? Mel Gibson?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that who I said? Who did I say?
No, you said Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks. I just started imagining a Mel Brooks Mad Max film.
Yes, Mel Gibson. Yes, Mel Brooks would be interesting. Now that I think
Definitely a
about
direction they could take.
It is funny that you brought up Dune, because as we talked about before we got started, we did see Godzilla -1 minus color today, and it did play the Dune 2 trailer, and Eric whispers over to me, he's like, I really enjoyed like the cinematography of Dune, but I don't know what's going on.
I've tried.
Yep.
I've tried to understand what I'm watching, and I saw the trailer. I was like, God, this movie looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's about, and I watched the first one, so it's tough. I do want to try to rewatch the first one, but
yeah, I think I'll probably watch it this year.
I feel like you got to be in it. Like you got to already be a little bit interested, and really in that mindset. I don't know if I'll give it a second watch in order to see the second one, but to see the second one, I think I kind of have to.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the Dune series is just very heavy sci-fi, and so much of that book like takes place just a character's like internal monologue and thoughts, and so there is a lot. I do think that being more familiar with kind of what's going on and the story helps, because it does, there is a lot that's kind of either left out or left unspoken, or that it just doesn't translate to the big screen. Plus I think there's a lot that's kind of just like, if sort of the backstory of the universe, like like they don't use computers. They have like the guys that do it all in their head, because there was AI thousands of years ago that like killed most of humanity or something. Like that's all backstory that's never explained in the movie, and it's explained in like a little bit of the book. So like knowing that kind of is like, oh, I understand why this guy is like this. And
that's always like I don't want to say problem, but when in any adaptation, it's like, well, man, I really wish they would have explained this and added that, and that's just gonna have to be that's just a compromise you have to make, unfortunately. But
and like Dune is very sci-fi versus like a Star Wars, which is way more science fantasy, where it's just kind of like, this is happening, and they don't need to explain it, because you just are like, cool, got it. This planet is all ice. I understand.
No explanation needed.
Yeah.
We'll just roll with it.
Yeah, exactly. Versus Dune, where they're like, well, actually, the planet's a desert now, but it used to have water, and here's all this backstory, and here's what's good. Like, here are the politics of it, and you have to. And it's just like, okay, got it. But yeah, so Dune, Furiosa. You brought up Godzilla. That's probably the one I am most excited for.
Dick Boy is coming back.
Yes. So Godzilla, X Kong, New Kingdom, whatever it is.
New Empire.
I
think. Yeah.
So I am pumped. I have been a Godzilla fan for a very, very long time. most of my life. And, you know, I know there have been people talking about this movie because of the trailer and just kind of some of the things that happen in the trailer. And I understand. And I know you guys have been wrong on your opinions about.
Okay, wait a second.
Dylan was like he was so happy we started with the movies because he was like waiting for this conversation to come up.
Ready? Yeah.
Well, now it's Eric that you have to convince, not me. So I have come over to the Godzilla side, to the legendary Godzilla
I'm not going
side.
to rewatch those movies and make a second opinion. I'm not. I'm just not. I'm going to watch Godzilla -1 a couple more times because that movie was good off the bat. I'm not going to. Honestly, these movies at their core are like 3 out of 5s. If you want me to really rewatch it to say it's a 3.5, that's fine. I just don't think that's enough of a validation for me to do it.
I think Godzilla 2014 is a 4. Having gone back and rewatched all of them in 2023, which I did. And I think King of the Monsters was a lot better than what I remember. I remember that being my least favorite of all of them. Called Skull Island, I think, is probably still my favorite. That one's my favorite out of all of them. But and then Godzilla X Kong, I think, was really, really good. It's strange when you do go back and watch these. And, you know, with, again, Godzilla, the fandom being in such a really healthy spot right now helps out a lot, too. So you go back and you reevaluate what, you know, what you thought these films were. And, you know, I think the trailer looks fun. I think we're at a point now. We still haven't hit the like Transformers, Fast and Furious wall with Godzilla. So I think we're still doing pretty well on that. But you know what? There's room for so many iterations of this character. It's like, hey, who cares? Like, do whatever you want. I think if they just adjust like the focus on the human characters, which is why I was surprised that I loved Legacy of Monarch so much. Because obviously it's a lot of heavy stories when it comes to the people that are part of that story. And I couldn't believe that I was so invested in that show. So Eric, are you at least going to watch the Apple TV show before Godzilla X Kong comes out? Because we're going to see it. We're going to see the movie.
Yeah, we're going to see it. So I need to. Yes, it is on my watch list. It is in my queue. And I hope it's as good as you say it is. It's just at this point, first impressions have not been strong with this iteration.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people are tearing into like that weird running scene where like Godzilla is running and Kong is running.
I love it.
I'm all for this. I'm all for it. Like I watched a man in a rubber suit like jump around, and I remember when Godzilla like horizontally floated across the screen doing a kick. And
feels like you're gonna have to put that
Peak
in
Godzilla.
Here.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely going to be a GIF in
like
Champ.
that. There was some point where he like with his atomic breath like flew around, and it's just like, I've seen way crazier stuff in a Godzilla movie than this. Like, so.
And there's supposedly like a 10-minute straight monster scene. I don't know if it's going to be 10 minutes, but there's a really lengthy scene where it's just the monsters that I think is cool. And I told this to Eric. I don't think I'm right, but the way that I actually deciphered that scene initially, now that I've gone back, I've seen it's probably not the case. But I thought they were running away from something, which I thought would have made it even more interesting as far as what's going on. I already want to know what they're running towards anyway, but I thought they were running away from something, and I was like, oh shit, like what's chasing them?
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a solid, fun film. And I'm definitely excited. And Eric, hopefully you get to check out the show. It comes out in March, so pretty soon. So that's going to be like, I think the first like major blockbuster of the year is going to be Godzilla X Kong. So we'll see how it goes.
Yes. And then I don't really have a whole lot to say about my final 2 movies I'm excited for. I just wanted to shout out that supposedly the Borderlands movie is coming out this year.
We'll see.
It will probably be awful, but it is coming out, and I do like the Borderlands video games, so I will see it. And then Alien Romulus, another movie that will likely not be that great, but I like the Alien movies, so I just wanted to throw that one out there. I was like, oh yeah, they're making a new one of those. So
the only thing we've gotten from Borderlands is that still, right?
Yeah.
That one photo. There's no trailer.
Photograph.
There's no like behind the scenes YouTube video. There's nothing. We haven't heard from the cast, which I think is pretty solid.
Yeah, like Kevin Hart.
Pretty good cast. Yeah.
I don't know. Anything with Kevin Hart in it, in film has not been too great recently.
I mean, Kevin Hart's good in Jumanji. Surprisingly, Jumanji was a pretty decent movie. It's a 3, but you're never gonna watch it. But it's a good movie.
I saw the first one.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
It's a good movie, like Real Steel. It's like on.
Oh my god, dude! We're not bringing up Real Steel 2 nights in a row, dude. Please stop.
You weren't.
I was with you. I was like, yeah, Jumanji. Like, I went into Jumanji not expecting anything, and then I was like, this is a really good movie. And then you're like, Real Steel, and I'm like,
have you seen Real Steel? It's pretty good. It's not a bad movie.
No, I haven't.
It's leaving Netflix soon. You should probably check it out.
Which is apparently a driving factor in why you should watch it.
I put it on the other day. There was like nothing going on at work. It was so slow. I was like, yeah, I'll put on Real Steel. Anyway.
Enough for him to text me. That's how much he liked it. Enough for him to go out of his way.
Wow.
I gave it a 3.
I didn't find out on Discord like everyone else. He texted me specifically like, hey,
I did. I need to review it on Discord.
By the way, Real Steel, pretty good movie. I was like,
not
what
bad.
The fuck are you telling me that for?
Is it just like boxing? Like
it's
with robots?
Kinda, yeah, basically.
Okay.
It's kind of like a Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie.
I thought it was based off of that game.
Yeah.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
Listen, it's pretty. I mean, Hugh Jackman, he's never gonna half-ass it. So it's a pretty good film. But yeah, we have known nothing of the Borderlands movies. So, and I think Kevin Hart has found like a groove. Now, listen, I did watch a Kevin Hart movie in January that's absolutely awful. It's on Netflix, and it was like a heist film.
Lift.
It's so bad. It's going to be in the running for one of the worst movies I see all year. So that's a counterpoint to what I'm saying right now. But in fun movies such as Borderlands, such as Jumanji, I think it works. He had that movie with like Will Ferrell, where they're like cops or whatever. I think when he's silly and leans into that, I think it can work really good. It's just strange that we haven't seen anything other than that one photo. And then as far as the Alien movie, Eric, I know you've seen more of those than I have. Do you have anything as far as you looking forward to that? Have you been keeping up with it at all?
No, but people are excited about it, and I've definitely taken notice. It's just never been a franchise that has interested me. I've always appreciated it from afar. I know the significance and impact it's had in cinema, but there's just so much of it. It's kind of oversaturated, so I've never wanted to really truly jump into it as a real first-time watcher. I've seen clips. I've probably seen one of the movies, like, whenever back in the day there'd be a movie on.
Didn't you see Prometheus?
I did see Prometheus. That one I went to the theaters for, and it was okay.
That is accurate.
I would like to see, and again, the Alien movies are also not my forte, but I would like to see them have a renaissance similar to like Predator. Like Prey came out in 2023 or 2022, and people really love that. I have not seen it, Eric. I think it was like on your radar, but you never jumped into it.
Yeah, it never came to fruition, but I still kind of want to see it because
I think eventually, I think that's just kind of proof that like some of these stories, even though they are very much science fiction, when they're grounded, people love them. Like people are very much so invested in that type of story. So I think it could be good. I would, again, so many people are fans of that franchise. Whenever something like that has a resurgence, it's just nothing but good for pop culture and for cinema in general. So I'll throw out a couple here. I think the big one when it comes to Marvel, because they're taking off a little bit of like a gap year kind of. I think there's only 2 films coming out this year. And then the big one, of course, is going to be Deadpool 3. So the one thing that kind of bums me out about Deadpool 3, and I know this doesn't apply to my co-host here because he goes looking for spoilers. He does not care if anything is spoiled for him whatsoever. Don't. But we're just seeing so many leaks and photos of people that are going to be in the movie, and like just all that stuff is being told before we even get to see the film. I hope there are enough surprises left for when the movie finally does come out. Eric, I'll throw this to you first because your bold prediction for 2024 over on the Thursday Thought was that the only $1 billion movie this year was going to be Deadpool 3. So how are you feeling? You still sticking to that as we sit here on the 28th of January?
I'm still feeling good so far, but I mean, I know it was a little bit of a hot take, and it definitely could be possible that it doesn't happen, but it just feels like this is a down year in general. Like, again, we talked about this during the Fantasy Critic draft that we did at Your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers, which if we didn't mention it, will probably be in the show notes of this episode. We talked about it being a little bit of a tough year after the big ones. And I think the same is true for the movies we know that are coming out and for the shows that we know that are coming out. I don't think there's anything too major coming out this year. Now, some of my anticipated movies, I'll kind of shoehorn one in here really quick. Inside Out 2 is an example of a movie. If critics say that that movie is like better than the first one, I could see that driving families and audiences to the theaters, and maybe it crosses that $1 billion mark. But, you know, while it is an anticipated movie, Phil, you and I are both worried about the fact that there's a sequel at all. So there's no real like surefire this movie's going to make $1 billion outside of Deadpool 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, Inside Out 2, first off, doesn't really need to exist. So, I mean, we can start there. I think you can even make an argument that it could exist as a TV show if you want to explore Riley older. So, I mean, they've been cranking out those animated shows. I think there's like a Moana animated TV show coming out on Disney Plus. So, like, all these properties they're revisiting and, you know, refocusing on IPs that, of course, have raked in a lot of money and have been very successful, but then they're not focusing on the new stuff. Like, then we get movies like Wish, you know, that are just not very good. And I know some of the films that came out like during the pandemic are re-releasing in theaters. I'd be interested to see how those go, like Soul and what else is re-releasing, Luca and Turning Red. You know, a bunch of movies that kind of just fell by the wayside, unfortunately, because of the times. But yeah, I could see, just because, again, it's going to be a while between, like, what was the last Marvel movie that came out? The Marvels, I think, came out in November. And we don't have Deadpool 3 till July, so people may be clamoring for it by then. I don't know how people are really reacting to Echo. So I think from what I've seen on YouTube, it's kind of mixed.
It has been mixed, yeah. And again, when we're talking about, like, these films, I'm kind of curious because, like, you know, the first blockbuster, obviously, Godzilla and Kong. But, like, that movie, if I'm looking it up correctly, yeah, that movie didn't even break $500,000. Half a
Godzilla
billion.
versus Kong?
Yeah, Godzilla versus Kong didn't even break $500 million. So, again,
people like you keep hating on it.
I'd rather give that money to Godzilla -1, which you should see.
That's true.
In theaters.
Yeah, fair.
As long as it's out. By the time this is out, it's probably too late. But
or both.
Again, I'm not saying don't go see it, but it's one of those popcorn-like films.
Yes.
That is going to make money. I just don't know that it's going to make $1 billion.
Well, like you said, 2024 is an interesting year because how many films that were supposed to come out this year that we are no longer getting because of the strike? True. So there was supposed to be a lot more films that came out, and one of mine, I'll just, again, shoehorn this one in because we don't know if it's coming out or not. It's Mickey 17 from Bong Joon-ho, which was initially supposed to come out in March, and it has an absolutely stacked cast. I know Robert Pattinson's involved and a couple of other really big names. And, you know, Eric, we have such a huge affinity for Bong Joon-ho here at the podcast, and it would be, I think, his first project since Parasite, if I can recall. So that's a film that is now, we don't even know if that's coming out this year. So
it's delayed indefinitely.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think that spot was given to, it might have been given to Godzilla X Kong, because I think it was supposed to come out a little bit later and it got moved up. So, and that might be the reason why there's a little bit of a lull in some of these that we're looking forward to. The other superhero project that, of course, people will be looking forward to, I say superhero very lightly, but is Joker. Folie à Deux, which is apparently going to be a musical with Lady Gaga stepping into the Harley Quinn role. And listen, we had Margot for so long, and I know why people love her so much. She's excellent in that role. But I think that Harley can also be played by multiple people. We can have, we have multiple Jokers to varying levels of success. But I think we can introduce a character, and I've liked Lady Gaga's work as far as when she acts. I think she's solid, and I think this movie, the first one is a masterpiece. It's excellent, and this one comes out in October, so again, a little bit of a lull between comic book films. Other than Madam Web, of course, we won't get it. We don't have time to talk about Madam Web, unfortunately. But
I thought that was a joke, like that, like And then I saw a trailer for Madam Web, and I was like, oh, this is like, I thought somebody was talking about like Venom or whatever, and like they were saying something about like, oh yeah, they're gonna make like a Craven and a Madam Web movie. And then I saw trailers for them, and I was like, oh, it wasn't a joke. They are making those two movies.
Well, I assume Craven's on Eric's list, so I'll let him talk about that. We'll go ahead. We won't. I don't want to spoil that for you, Eric.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, the Madam Web thing is interesting. We won't give that any more time than it deserves. But yeah, I do think Joker again can be really, really good as long as they continue to, as long as the tone is consistent between both films. But it is interesting because we are seeing such a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Eric? Like a kickback when it comes to musicals. People are just like adamantly being like, no, we don't want musicals. Obviously the most recent example being Mean Girls, which I very much enjoyed. But
to be fair, though, they also refused to advertise it as
musicals,
so.
Right? Yeah, like I didn't know Wonka was a musical until you told me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't Wonka a musical too? So yeah,
literally again, less than 5 minutes in, I would say the first couple minutes, the girl next to me was like, "Is this a musical?" And then immediately was disinterested for the rest of the film.
Yeah, so people are pushing away from that, but I mean, obviously the Joker is going to be rated R and also a musical, so maybe it'll be a little bit different. But, throwing out the comic book films there that, of course, people are going to be very much looking forward to. I still think Deadpool 3 is going to be very good. I really enjoy Ryan Reynolds. I also recently learned there's a subsect of the internet, which there's a subsect for everything, but that really dislikes Ryan Reynolds and thinks he's very much untalented and unfunny and unsincere. And I'm like, who hurt you? Like, why? Why do you have such strong feelings about Ryan Reynolds and what has he done to you? So I don't get it. But those two, Eric, I wanted to throw out the comic book films that at least the top two that people are going to be looking forward to, myself included.
Yeah, those are on my list as well. Obviously, I mentioned Inside Out 2, which people know is coming, but I will say a movie that's recently gotten on my radar is called Monkey Man. And Phil, I don't know. I understand.
It's a bad start.
Not a great start. But it's got Dev Patel in it, who was in Slumdog.
Oh, yeah. I have seen this trailer. Yep.
You saw the trailer? That trailer looks good. And it's basically described as John Wick in Mumbai. So sign me the fuck up because it looked good. The fight choreography, just at a glance, looked very interesting. I'm not expecting this to be a movie of the year, but in a year where other than those comic book or Disney films, not a lot was on my radar this year. It was cool to see a movie that's coming out in April that I'm probably going to see if it just gets some decent reviews.
Yeah, that trailer looks pretty cool. Have you seen that? Or have you heard of this film, Dylan, or have you seen that trailer?
I have not heard of this film or seen the trailer. I'm going to look it up after this because John Wick in Mumbai sounds really cool. So
it was making rounds over on Twitter the other day, and I was like, what is this? And it looks really good. Who's it's directed by Dev Patel and starring him, right? I believe he's directing it.
Directed by Dev Patel.
And it's a Monkey Paw production, which is
so Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's really all I had, though, outside of the ones you mentioned, Phil. Again, movie-wise, Furiosa was one that is on my radar. Don't be surprised, guys, if we do a Mad Max Fury Road for Late to the Party.
Because I have not seen it.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk about that movie because I think it's an interesting film. People are very passionate about that film, despite some obvious problems I think it has. But it's still great. Especially cinematography-wise. The only other movie that's kind of like an honorable mention is because Phil keeps bringing it up. It's a A24 film called Civil War. And he keeps asking if we're going to go see it. It stars Kirsten Dunst. And I don't know. Maybe this will be good. Maybe it won't. Phil, I can't tell if you're being like satirical or if you're genuinely excited for this.
I think it's this year's really gritty Gran Turismo. Like, remember we kept seeing Gran Turismo trailers everywhere, every single time we went to the theater. And then eventually I just watched the damn thing. I was like, man, that's pretty good. But also, I'm like, A24 has yet to like really let us down quite yet. So it also has, what's his name? Ron Swanson from
Nick
Parks
Offerman.
and Rec. Nick Offerman. I don't know how much he's in the movie.
You should really learn his name. It's kind of.
I really should. That was pretty. It was just, you know what, Mr. Offerman, I apologize. You are outstanding. And but I don't know how much he's going to be in the movie, but he does play the president. It's a really interesting premise. I just think the name Civil War is like too on the nose. Like they should have named it something else. But the trailers look interesting, and again, the studio always gives us some hits. Honestly, one of the things to be most excited about is like, what are the movies that are going to come out that we have no idea are coming? Like, what is this year's Past Lives or Nimona for me? Extraction 2, which I didn't even know was coming out in 2023. Like, what are going to be these movies that totally take us by surprise and end up being really, really good? You know, like the Meg 2 snuck up on us. You know what I mean? Like the movies that are really, really
Phil,
good.
That's not what people are talking about.
My number 13 film of 2023, by the way.
But you shouldn't say that out loud.
Right behind Fast X.
No, Phil. Phil, you're digging a hole. But when you kind of look when you look at Best Picture, I'll just go down the line of films that were nominated for this year's Oscars: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. If you were keeping up with that, this time last year, I didn't know about any of these films outside of like Barbie, Oppenheimer. Past Lives didn't even get into my like viewing space until it had like gotten close to release. I knew there was going to be a new Leo and Scorsese film, but I didn't know too much about
what it
it.
Was.
So again, more than half of these movies that were nominated for Best Picture, no clue at the start of the year, and they just kind of snuck up out of nowhere. Unless you're really into like film, you're like deep into it. And Dylan, gaming is kind of your space. For us, we're two idiots casually in all the spaces, so we know a lot, but we're not going to.
No, Eric's just waiting for us to get to TV shows so we can talk about anime. That's all he's waiting for, so we can get to the next category.
You didn't have to. Yeah, that's fine.
Eric's gonna be like, "Oh, Eric, we're gonna toss this to you." He's gonna like unroll like a scroll of like all the anime that's coming out in 2023 that or 2024 that no one's gonna watch but him. So he's
okay. That doesn't feel right.
Well, yeah, I mean, even though it is a little bit of a maybe a quieter year right now, like you said, Eric, there are going to be films that pop up that we had no idea were even coming. I'm excited for, I think is going to be a fun movie in Argyle. We have me and my sister and a couple of other friends have started to guess who the real Agent Argyle is, and my guess, I think it's a woman, and I think I went with Margot Robbie. So we'll know here in the next week because it comes out on Friday. We're going to go see it. We're going to know if I'm right or not, or if I was terribly, terribly wrong, and it's just like The Cat or something like something just really silly. I think it's going to be a fun movie. We need more fun movies. We need fun films. Not everything has to be a universe. Not everything has to be super serious. Give me more rom-coms. Give me all of that. So I think it'll be fun. But if you guys don't have any other films you want to point out, we can transition to TV shows. Anybody else have anything on their radar? All right. Well, let's get into TV shows here first. I'll go first with a couple that are coming out actually in February. And one is the Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV show with Donald Glover, as well as I don't have her name up right now, but we talked about it, Eric. She is the lead voice actor in Blue Eye Samurai over on Netflix, which was a really great series. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a property we haven't really heard from in a long time. Obviously, everyone remember, or a lot of people remember the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie movie, which was, I think, looking back on it, okay, it's fun. it's fine. It was like the World War Z of spy films. Like it's okay. this is a movie. But I think, anytime obviously Eric Donald Glover is involved in a project, it's automatically going to interest us. I do hope that it is I hope that it ends up being a lot of fun. I mean, whenever also Donald, I think is it on FX or is it on Hulu? I gotta look that up.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Oh, it's on Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah, Prime.
Is it on Prime? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Atlanta's on FX.
Yeah, because I know he had like a really big working relationship with FX for a while, but yeah, so it'll be on Amazon Prime, and I think it's going to be solid. The trailers don't really give a whole lot away, but the biggest thing is what's their chemistry like? Do the two main characters have any chemistry whatsoever? If they don't, it's going to crash and burn right then and there. And then FX, I think this is why I thought of it. There's a show called Shogun coming out on FX that looks very, very good. And one of the leads in it is also in Monarch. So become a big, big fan of hers. And those are two shows coming out in February here very shortly. that I'm looking forward to. So, Dylan, it sounds like you are these are on your radar. At least you've heard of them. Either one of these shows you're going to be checking out.
I may check out Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Amazon is kind of like my 4th or 5th tier like streaming service. So if I remember that exists or like whatever, I might eventually get to it. But Shogun, I saw a trailer for the other day, and I thought it looked really cool, and I recognized the girl. She plays
Sawai
Kate,
is her name.
right?
Yeah.
In Monarch, and so I was like, oh, that looks like a really cool TV show, and so I'm interested in Shogun for sure. So,
if anything, I don't know if you've seen it, but I would say, because I also don't really use Amazon Prime either. The only show that I really use it for is I just had the name of it, Eric, in my head, the animated show. Why do I always forget the name?
Is it the Critical Role one?
Legend of Vox Machina. Yeah.
That one's really good.
I don't think you actually
I don't know why.
like that show.
I don't think I do. Apparently I don't, because I always forget the name
is
of it.
great.
Because it's
It
a
is so
long ass name.
Yeah.
For a show. So that is the only thing that I really watch on Amazon Prime as well, up until when Mr. and Mrs. Smith come out. But Eric, either one of these shows for you, I don't know if you've heard of Shogun, but again, it looks very interesting. Again, as far as the time period that it takes in, right there along the lines of Blue Eye Samurai, which we just got done watching.
Yeah, Shogun was interesting to me. Obviously, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm gonna want to check that out as well. I think some of these shows I do want to see the reception before I dive into it. Phil, neither of us were expecting to want to, and in your case, start Ted on Peacock, and here we are.
Fun.
You're like 6 episodes in.
So
I
good.
plan on watching it, and it released this month. Nobody saw that coming, really. So some of these, kind of word of mouth, I'm waiting to hear, especially for, some of these shows that are going to be over that 30-minute time frame. I struggle. It just is what it is. You know what? I'm accepting it, embracing it. Storytelling over 30 minutes, episodically. It's got to be good. Why
don't you go ahead and explain your anime math to Dylan, please? Because I don't think he knows it. I'm going to go do something else.
That'd be great. So Dylan, just in case you were curious, interested. So anime typically is 25 minutes an episode. And mind you, we got 3 to 5 minutes of that is the opening and the closing songs. Yeah. So the opening and the credits, right? So we're really only talking 20 minutes here.
Yeah. I've been watching Demon Slayer, and it's very much like 5 minutes of the opening song and stuff, and then also another 5 minutes of, hey, here's what happened last episode,
right?
And then 5 new minutes, and then 5 minutes that will be repeated at the beginning of the next episode.
And then, then it feels like forever when you're watching it, because you're like, how do they fit all this story into basically 15 minutes? So all I'm saying is, for a show that's an hour long, even 40 minutes, that's 2 to 3 episodes of an anime I can watch. I just think there's some credence to hold shows accountable for being interesting.
Yeah, no, because they are interesting. You just won't watch it if it's not animated. There are plenty of interesting shows that last over 25 minutes. Yes, there is. There's so many TV shows I watched last year that are very interesting, that have 45 to 1 hour, 45 minute to 1 hour.
Tell me Tell me 3 fantastic series that you saw last year. 3 fantastic hour-long episodes.
Monarch Legacy is it Monarch Legacy of Monsters? Are those 30 to 45 minutes? Yeah, 30 to 45 minutes. What's the show that I watched on Shrinking?
Let's say 45 or over. 45 or over is really my argument.
Still counts.
I would have to go. Let's see. I have to go to our Discord page, and I have to figure out what literally did come out last year, and what was I catching up on. That was really, really good. But let me see here. We're gonna go. We're gonna go through this. Oh, you didn't like Loki. I enjoyed Loki.
Yeah, not great. Not great. I wanted to. I'll tell you this. I enjoyed the second season more than I did the first.
That's not hard. The first season.
The first one's bad. First season is awful. Up until the last episode.
Obviously, Ted Lasso season 3 came out in 2023. Silo also on Apple TV, very, very good show. So yeah, if I knew that question was coming, I would have been more prepared.
Weird how that works that way. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just gonna throw out some rom-com anime that no one gives a shit about.
people give a shit. It's just you don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear that. Anyway, Dylan, were there any television shows of yours that you are interested in checking out this year?
Yeah. So the first one is one that is currently started, and it is the new season of True Detective, Night Country. I've loved every season of True Detective so far, and it's been on a decently long hiatus. And so it started, I think tonight, as of recording this, is the third episode is coming out. And so I've been really enjoying the show so far. I don't know that it would meet your needs, Eric, because it is the definition of a slow burn series. But it is excellent. I'm also excited about House of the Dragon season 2. I was disappointed in Game of Thrones and how it ended. Not so much because I was like, oh, I hate this story, but more so just like it was too rushed. And so like I watched the end of Game of Thrones and then really didn't do anything else with it except for watching like an episode here or there to go on Emily and Kate's show Game of Thrones. But House of the Dragon came out and I jumped back into it and I was shocked at how much I kind of missed the Game of Thrones universe and how much I enjoyed that show. And so I don't think they've like officially announced that the second one is coming back this year, but I think that's like the rumors is that it's coming back this year. And so I'm very excited for that show as well. It looked like you had thoughts, Eric.
Yeah, no, like True Detective has always interested me, especially that first season.
Yeah.
So that's actually Phil, a late to the party candidate at some point in the next 12 months. That's something I actually had written down. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I have heard the seasons are critically a little divisive after season 1.
Yeah.
So it's definitely good to hear you kind of sing its praises. And then as far as the other show that you were mentioning, I'm drawing a blank. What was the
House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon.
Yep.
I want to watch Game of Thrones. That's like a series that I would be interested in potentially watching. That's that
very
long.
late to the party.
Very late to the party.
Eric's never gonna watch Game of Thrones.
Probably never. However, I would be curious. We need to ask Game of Thrones if they're ever, you know, when they're done, are they going to do House of the Dragon? Because that'd be a nice.
I think they are.
That'd be a great place for us to jump in, Phil, and finally get an appearance. Because otherwise,
is it a prequel?
Yeah,
it's a prequel.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like we could easily jump into that and maybe start there, get our feet wet. So I definitely have both of those shows on my radar, but will I actually watch them is another question altogether.
Yeah, because True Detective can't each season be watched independently because they're all different characters, right? Different stories, all that stuff.
It's like an anthology series basically where each season does its own thing. Season 2 is the most divisive out of all of them. A lot of people were kind of lukewarm on season 3, but I really enjoyed season 3. I thought it was really cool because season 3 kind of takes both season 1 and season 3 both kind of take place over kind of like Monarch did, Phil, where it's like there are multiple storylines going on at different points in time. Yeah. And then season 4, like they're kind of sort of lightly connecting it to season 1 because like some of the characters in season 1, it's like, oh, that is semi, like I've heard that name before, but it's not as of now, like 2 episodes in. It's not like, it's more so like an Easter egg of like, oh, I've watched that and I recognize that name versus like, I don't think you'd really miss out on anything if you hadn't seen them. So,
yeah, that's definitely a show. It's on my radar as well. It has been for a long time, and I've heard the new season's off to a solid start as well. So, Eric, there is one thing before you go, because we probably could have brought this up in movies, but I'll just bring it up here because it is anime adjacent because it is a TV show, and that is Blue Lock episode Nagi. I don't know if that's going to come out in the States in 2024, but I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of Blue Lock, Dylan, on the anime side, but it has become an obsession of ours. It is one of the best animes that I've ever seen. I am totally invested in it. And it's a sports anime about soccer, which is something that I didn't think I cared about. But for me, it was outstanding. I watched the entire. There's 2 seasons, right, Eric? I watched. Oh no, there's just one season with 25 episodes.
Yeah, I think it might be a little less than that. And if we do the math, actually,
stop. No, we don't need to do the math. Stop.
Every episode we confirmed is about 25 minutes. So that's about, realistically, it's only like a 12 episode season in the normal shows you watch. So again,
you mean like a normal show that came out last year that was really good called The Last of Us? That had over 45-minute episodes.
Okay, so that was a good one too. Some of these shows can make it work. Like, I'm not saying it's
plenty of shows can make it work because plenty of people watch anime and
no, it's because you're old and you're used to commercials being in them. So that's why the shows have to be an hour, and then we move to streaming. When have I ever onto this?
When have I ever watched television with commercials? Now, what are you talking about?
You watched it when you were a kid, when you were a young adult. That's how we grew into TV. That's what
you're
TV
older
was
than me
until
now.
like 10
We've
years
established
ago.
that you're older than me now. You've surpassed me in age.
No, I said Anaconda once. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. That's not how it works.
And again, Blue Locked, back to that point. Quick 25-minute first episode, you're hooked. Hook, line, sinker. It doesn't take 3 to 5 episodes. You have to commit 40 plus minutes an episode. It's literally the first episode is a banger. And if you don't like it, you're not going to like the show. It's almost like written into the DNA right there from the first episode. So highly recommend, even if you're not usually into anime, for both our listeners and Dylan, high recommend. And yes, Phil, I did know about episode Nagi. I was saving that for the anime portion, but yes, it is a movie version being released in Japan, and I hope we get it in the States this year.
So is it like a abridged, condensed version like Mugen Train was for Demon Slayer, or is it like a...
It's like its whole arc, its own arc, right?
It's like a whole arc.
Because Nagi is a side character.
Okay.
So, and a very popular, really great side character. So, yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but
more of a spin-off of that character, but still in line with the show. Not necessarily an arc from, to my knowledge, the manga, but I also could be wrong on that. But yeah, TV show wise, there were a couple here. Phil, I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention this. I don't know if you were trying to save this for anime or other, but I mean, I would just consider this a TV show. Again, I don't need it to just be animated, but in this case, Arcane Season 2
I was just waiting for that.
Is animated.
For the end of the combo, yeah.
And fantastic. I consider that just as a regular TV show, not necessarily anime. We talked about that, Phil, with Blue Eye Samurai, where it's an animated show, adult themes, but not necessarily anime in style and in theme. So Arcane Season 2, ecstatic for. And then on the nerd side of things, I'm obviously excited for Fallout. I don't know if that's going to be good on Prime. No clue. It could be a complete mess, but I'm hopeful. And the Penguin, if it's released, I liked the Batman specifically because of the Penguin. Colin Farrell killed that role. I would love to see more of that and him in that world. Do we get that one? I'm not sure. So Fallout and Arcane are probably two of my big ones. And Arcane, kind of a surefire thing. Fallout, not so much. So Dylan, how do you feel about any of those that I kind of listed off?
Arcane is on my list of shame that I have not watched season 1 of yet. And so it's on my list of like, I need to actually like sit down and watch through Arcane season 1.
Do you play League or are you a good person?
I have played League in the past, but it was always one of those things where it's like I'm too good of a person to ever get into League. So, but I hear such great things about the show. It's one of those where it's like, oh, I actually like want to pay attention when I'm watching this, and I actually like want to like get into it, which means I need to be in the right headspace to sit down and like watch it all. And I just have not like I've been distracted by so many things. So,
and you can make the argument, Eric, and tell me if I'm wrong here, that there's 9 episodes and they're broke up into 3s, and each set of 3 is basically its own season. So yeah, there is a lot going on, and you do need to pay attention. But that's a show that I go back and watch since it's come out. Probably at least 2-3 times a year. I just either it's not. I'm not focusing on it all the time, but I do have it like on in the background just because it's so good. Animation's amazing, voice acting is incredible, the action's good. Yeah, you definitely need to check that out. You have until November before season 2 comes out, so you got time.
True.
And then what was the other show you mentioned, Eric? You just said, you said the Penguin, and then the other one was
Fallout. Yeah.
What is your level of concern or for Fallout, Dylan? How you feel?
I mean, on the one hand, Amazon is throwing a shit ton of money at it, right? Like, and it could be good because of that, but also the Lord of the Rings show had a ton of money behind it, and it wasn't that good. And so I do feel like it's harder to screw up Fallout than it was to screw up Lord of the Rings. Like, it was, in my opinion, it was very easy to mess up the Lord of the Rings. But I guess my point is, I don't feel like they've got a great track record, Amazon. But I don't know. It's tough because I'm not a huge Fallout fan. Like, of the Bethesda games, that's never been the ones that I got into. I was always kind of the Elder Scrolls side of things. Fallout, I would always play a little bit of and then be like, I'm kind of bored of this world. I feel like I would probably enjoy it more as a TV show. But I'm curious to see, I guess, what they do with it, like where they go, what the story is. Because, like, is it just set in the world? Is it just like similar to how I felt about what was that other one, Twisted Metal, that came out last year? And so it was like, if they do something like they did with Twisted Metal, I could see it being pretty good, because Twisted Metal was shockingly
better. I heard Twisted Metal kind of like hit its stride like a few episodes in. So my whole thing is, like, I've just never bought into Anthony Mackie as a leading man. And maybe that's just a personal thing for me, but I did hear that it got pretty good. And Fallout, I think, does lend itself to a TV show. I think that type of thing can work. But like you said, I mean, people throw money at stuff all the time, and sometimes you get, something that's not so great. Sometimes you get a Monarch Legacy of Monsters, or something that. But the problem now is that we have The Last of Us, which is excellent. So now it's going to be held to a standard that might not even be reachable. So.
Phil, I gotta interrupt. I was so scared for a second when you go back and see it. I don't know if you can zoom in, but Shuri was looking right at me. I didn't know she was back there. She was on the futon, dude. I was scared the hell out of me, dude. That's never happened in all the times we've recorded.
Yeah, I'm in the game room, not my bedroom. So.
She was just staring into my soul. Anyway.
She heard you yelling at me. She didn't like it.
Yeah, you deserved it. Only honorable mentions I was going to quickly kind of throw out there, as we probably are ready to transition to gaming. I don't know if this is coming out this year, but The Acolyte, which is a Star Wars project set before the original Star Wars films, I feel like could be really good, especially with some of the cast that's been announced. So just an honorable mention there. I also saw a couple of shows that I don't know anything about. But I saw a HBO show called The Sympathizer that's going to have Robert Downey Jr. playing multiple roles opposite Sandra Oh. So another film that could potentially, another show, I should say, that could potentially be good. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's other ones that are great. The One Piece live action was great for Netflix last year. Avatar: The Last Airbender is the second attempt here. So I think they might.
Trailer looks cool.
Yeah.
Trailer looks cool. I didn't tell you this, Eric. I started Avatar in 2023, the animated show. I've never seen it before.
Was that one of those surprises you said you weren't going to tell me?
No.
Oh.
That's I'm keeping that one close to the chest.
How's that going? Avatar.
It's good. I enjoy it. Yeah, I can see why it's very popular. I think I definitely would have enjoyed it a lot more as a kid. but I can see it's got a lot of charm and it's funny. It's really funny. So I'm enjoying it. But I do have a couple of the other. Wow, talking's hard. I do have a couple honorable mentions. One is, do you guys think Squid Game Season 2 is going to come out in 2024? I don't think it's ever going to come. I don't think we're ever getting Season 2 of that show.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the most important show that has ever been released, Eric, and it's called Kite Man, Hell Yeah, which is the spin-off of the Harley Quinn TV show on HBO Max, which is outstanding. Just got renewed, I think, for Season 5. So it's still going strong. But Kite Man, the best character and the best boy, getting his own spin-off. Don't know if that's coming out this year, but it was announced last year. So Squid Game Season 2, maybe, probably not. Kite Man, hell yeah, hopefully. Dylan, have you watched the Harley Quinn show on HBO?
I've seen a couple of episodes, and then just never got back to it. But it was I enjoyed the stuff that I saw, and like it's on my to watch list of HBO. It's just finding the time.
And there's like a bunch of seasons out for that now, so like it is pretty ripe for binging as well.
Yeah.
Did you watch Squid Game when it was all the rage? And what was that? Was that the pandemic? Squid
that
Game
might have been. Yeah, it might have been 2020.
Around that time,
yeah. So that was a good show. That was a very good show. Would they make it? I'm trying to remember the ending. Is it set up to have a season 2? Okay.
Yeah, it is. The thing is, we'll probably get a season 2 of that stupid reality show before we get the actual show.
Yeah. The reality show where it's like, we saw this TV show, or like we made Squid Game. We took the message and kind of reversed it and ignored it, and we're gonna do the exact opposite of what that show is about. So, I do want to shout out. There's a 3-Body Problem TV show coming out. It's a very another heavy sci-fi series. It's coming out on Netflix. I don't know a whole lot about it other than it's like aliens show up, and how does the world deal with it? And then they're making a Dune TV show, like a Dune prequel that's going to be on HBO, supposedly. I've seen nothing about it, so I'm not confident that it's actually going to come out this year, but that was also like as an honorable mention on my list, just because nothing other than it's a prequel has been announced as far as I saw. So
well, there's a lot of stuff sprinkled in throughout the entire year. There's going to be plenty to choose from. Eric, did you have some anime that are on the that are on your watch list for 2024? Is there anything else? I guess I'll say this. Obviously, we know there's a lot of stuff returning in 2024. What is this year's new anime that people are kind of maybe on the lookout for? You know, last year everyone was excited for Chainsaw Man. Kaiju number 8 is getting their anime, I believe, this year. I think it comes out in I don't know if it's coming out in the States. It will be coming out in the States this year. So is that what it is? Is it Kaiju number 8, or is it something else that maybe people should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, Kaiju number 8 is my personal favorite for this year because I am reading the manga. It's one of the ones that Phil is actually reading. As much as he gives me shit for anime, he just does it on a smaller scale. He's reading manga over there. He's buying manga, watching anime, watching Avatar, apparently, although that's not exactly anime per se. Look at him. That's ridiculous. So
I can't read.
Kaiju number 8's the big one. As far as new anime, there are a couple returning ones, but new ones for casual fans. Suicide Squad Isekai is coming out.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
wild. Don't know why this is a thing, but it will be coming out this year. It's by Wit Studio, who many of us know, doing the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan and many other series. The Phil, one for you specifically, is Uzumaki, which is a Juni Ito adaptation, and you are specifically getting into like that horror manga range, and I believe that's the creator you've been reading. So definitely one for you from a horror anime standpoint. Yep. It's like we planned it. We didn't. No. The only other ones I'll mention, Solo Leveling is out right now. I have not had a chance to watch it, but people were really excited for it, and I have heard good things. And then the last one is a show called Metallic Rogue, which is a mecha mystery set on Mars. That's what I'm reading here.
That
and
seems
I will
cool.
be honest, I only heard about this show a little bit before I saw the trailer. It is a mecha, so it may or may not be good. But apparently it's out now, Studio Bones, and obviously has some promise. So those are the ones I'd say to be on the lookout for. But Kaiju number 8, new anime-wise, that's the one that is on my radar the most.
Yeah, I put these manga here because I say I'm going to read them whenever it gets slow at work, and then I watch Real Steel. So sometimes I understand why Eric gets upset with me, and there are times where I have to take accountability. I get it, so I understand. But if you guys don't have anything else you want to point out as far as TV shows, we can transition into gaming, which is fresh on our minds because we just did the Fantasy Critic Draft a couple of weeks ago. I am off to an outstanding start. I feel pretty good about where I am.
Yeah.
Whether or not I will stay in first place is another question that will be answered in December. So we will see how that goes. But Dylan, we want to toss it over to you first, of course, as our resident gaming expert. And, what is what has caught your eye here in 2024? Because Eric and I talked about this, when we did the draft, where there's not a whole lot like on our radar that we're clamoring for. There's nothing obvious like a Spider-Man 2 for us as far as like what's in our library. So what should we be looking forward to in 2024 in the gaming sphere?
I don't know what you guys should be looking forward to, but what I am looking forward to,
toss up.
What I am looking forward to is probably the biggest one that I've got on my list is Dragon's Dogma 2. So it's the sequel to a game that came out in like early 2010s, I want to say. And it's a Capcom game. And so it came, like, the original came out kind of in the old Capcom period where it was a little bit like, what are you doing, Capcom? And recently, like, kind of starting with the RE2 remake and Monster Hunter World and some of those newer Capcom projects, or I guess Resident Evil 7 is kind of like maybe the reawakening of Capcom. They've been doing a lot of really cool stuff. Like their games have been much more user friendly, much more streamlined, much more like quality of life improvements just across the board. So I'm really excited to see what they do with Dragon's Dogma 2. It's kind of a big open world, like questing, like huge monsters that you're fighting. You have like little followers that you make that help you quest and stuff. And so it seems really cool. It seems like it kind of scratches that sort of like Elden Ring crossed with The Witcher sort of vibe. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I've tried to play the first like the original game multiple times, but it's a getting into an old game is tough sometimes.
Especially now. Yeah, trying to play those games now, it's like it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I was working at GameStop when the first one came out. Like that's how long ago it came out. It was on the 360 and the PS3, and it was one of those titles that kind of like came and went. But then as time has gone on, I think people are looking at it a lot differently. So I know people are super excited for the second one, like you said.
Yeah. Is it on either of your guys' radars, or is it just kind of like, eh?
Yeah, again, like there's just not a whole lot. So this isn't necessarily my genre either. Yeah. And I'm like a weird combination of a sports / cozy / like mainstream gamer. We're like, so like Eric and I are going to play the shit out of WWE 2K24 because we do the My GM mode, and only one of us has to buy the game, and we do share play, like over the PS5 or share controller play or whatever. So we'll spend hours doing that, and I'll play, unfortunately, the NCAA football game that's going to come out later this year. It's going to be terrible, probably. So
there's a high chance of that.
So yeah, those aren't really the type of games that like cross my list. Eric, I know you have been kind of trying to expand your library. Last year you really you got excited about what was the game that you said was kind of like that looked like BioShock? Atomic Heart. And like you were excited to hope that was pretty good, and ended up being like it was okay.
Average. Yeah.
So Do you find yourself, as far as because I know you did obviously your research before the draft, Dragon's Dogma 2, obviously did come up. Is this something that you would possibly look into as somebody who has been putting off games like The Witcher for the longest time and stuff like that?
Yeah, potentially. It is my pick on the Fantasy Critic. It was my first round pick, so I'm going to be looking at it very closely. I do want to definitely get into a couple games. I really do feel, though, while I'm excited for one game that may or may not come out this year, for the most part, I don't have like multiple games like I'm somewhat interested in as a gamer myself to potentially play. I think this is the year that I can give games like The Witcher 3 a little bit of time that I've just have not picked up. I played a few hours of it. I have it. I own it on my Xbox. I just haven't gotten around to playing it. I definitely want to play Elden Ring. I've been pretty vocal about that. I do want to give that a shot. Probably going to be a mess of a nightmare to do, but I want to do it. Alan Wake 2, I was very close to doing. Honestly, had it not come out so close to Spider-Man, I probably would have gotten it. And then the game I really want to play is Baldur's Gate 3. And to be honest, if it was cross-compatible where I could play with other people, I would have played it already. So there's more games that came out in the past 12 months that I want to play this year, more so than the games that came out. But if there is a knockout game that comes out, maybe that's Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm willing to give anything a shot at this point because I feel like this year is wide open.
Yeah.
What I hope 2024 is like the year. I mean, in every year is this because it is the best deal in gaming. But I hope we get even more great titles coming to Game Pass. As I finally just got that back because Pal World is now out. My daughter has had it for the longest time, and I was like, I'm taking the Xbox. I'm sorry. Because I have pals to put to work, so I've been playing the shit out of that. So I do hope that there are just even more titles that to check out over on Game Pass. We talked about this the other night, Dylan, when we were recording with Andrew and Stefan. Games, we were joking about it, but if games like Suicide Squad or Skull and Bones were coming to Game Pass, we'd probably try them out. But I'm sure as hell not paying $70 for either one of those titles. So, I remember when the trailer for Suicide Squad came out. Remember, Eric? Like I was like, this has potential. And then we got more and more trailers, and you see the glowing orbs and the numbers, and you're like, oh no.
And the battle passes.
What have they done to my boy, Rocksteady? What did they do?
Yeah, because that's those are the type of games too that like. If you paid $70 for it, you'd be pissed. But if you got it for free on Game Pass, you're like, this is actually a pretty fun game. This is like Pal World. If you paid full price for Pal World, would you be happy? Probably not.
Not when you build your base and the pals spawn in rocks. So if you're like me, I have to climb up every morning and grab them and then throw them off and then climb up and go get the next one. So when you built your base to hold
I can't imagine where you put your base for that to happen.
Double-digit Pokemon, I mean pals. Then that's where
it sounds like you're playing the game wrong, Eric.
Yeah, you can also move your pal box. So.
I've not learned how to do that. That would have been great to know.
But I do think you're right, and I think we talked about this a little bit on the draft of just this year being a big kind of question mark for a lot of stuff. Like since the draft, we have had Microsoft kind of come out and talk a little bit about what they're doing this year. We've got Hellblade 2 coming out, which I know a lot of people are excited for. Hellblade 1 is on my list to play, and then play the second one this year. The Indiana Jones game though looks super cool. Are you guys interested at all in Indiana Jones? Are you Indiana Jones fans? Or
we actually watched all the first 3 for the first time last year.
Nice.
So, and I'm also, I don't know if I told you this, and I have a photo opportunity with Ki Hee Kwan next Sunday, a week from today. Actually, I'm meeting him. I am super excited. But we watched all 3 of those movies, or the first 3 films. Eric has seen the 4th one, but not the 5th one. Yeah. But I really enjoyed them. The first one, surprisingly, is my least favorite. What people are pretty shocked when I hear that. But I think, again, this is also something, watching that movie in 2024, the second and third one are more like modern movies than the first one are.
The third one is great.
The third one's fantastic.
I think 2 and 3 are excellent. I think they're both very, very good. But yeah, I would check it out. And I know, and Andrew actually mentioned this, like people were complaining, like you just wanted a Lara Croft or Uncharted clone. Just go play those games. Like if you want to go play those, I think it's good that they're making it a unique take. The first person stuff did take me a little off guard, but again, if it comes to Game Pass, I would definitely check it out. I don't think I would buy it, but yeah, I mean, as an IP, I think we're overdue for Indiana Jones game. I think it could be fun.
Yeah, I think that's the type of game, for a fantasy critic, you're able to in this league counterpick, which essentially means you're banking on this game going bad and working in your favor. I don't see anyone in the league counterpicking that, so I think it at least has the chance to have a positive impact.
Yeah,
I think it could be fun.
Yeah, so they're like Microsoft has kind of let us know a little bit about like what they've got coming up, but we still like don't really know what Sony's big stuff is. There are a bunch of rumors swirling around of like the Switch 2 coming out this year, and so obviously like that's kind of exciting in the video games realm. I'm waiting to see kind of like, well, what does it even look like? Is it going to be like, is it worth potentially upgrading, or is it kind of just like you can play your games on like a shinier screen and a bigger screen, and maybe it runs stuff slightly better or whatever. It's one that I'm like, it could be cool, could not be, but
I have like a complex relationship with Nintendo too, because the one thing that would get me to, because I have a Switch and it hasn't been turned on in months. Like I was a pandemic Switch player when Animal Crossing came out. That's when I jumped on. I didn't have any desire to have a Switch before then, until we were all cooped up at home, and I played the crap out of Animal Crossing and still very much enjoy it. But I haven't touched my Switch in months. The one thing that would get me to do it, and it is topical because of what's going on right now with Pal World, is giving me a really good Pokemon game. And the last two that have come out, I've had no interest whatsoever in playing them. Like Game Freak just keeps getting away with putting out the same stuff, and they can put in so much effort, and they just don't do it.
Yes, I counterpicked Pokemon Legends Arceus or whatever because I'm like, it's just the same fucking game. They it's just
no effort.
There's no effort. It looks bad. It looks terrible. Still got like an 8 or 9 out of 10 because they just keep letting Pokemon get away with it. I'm just saying that for like, if a Pokemon game gets announced, do not counterpick it because it will get points.
We got some advice there from the veteran. But it's insane that like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 animations look better than a Pokemon game that has come out in 2022. That should not be the case, so because I would buy it. I would buy a handheld new Pokemon game, even if you even just made it so that I could buy gold and silver on the damn Switch, I'll pay for it. And they won't do that either. So they just want to keep, instead I'll have to buy not only a Game Boy or not only a DS, but I also have to spend $100 on a copy of Heart Gold or Soul Silver on eBay or at my local video game store. So that's the only thing that would get me to buy a Switch 2 like on launch, because I don't play the Zelda games. I'm not the biggest Mario fan. Other than Mario Kart, and I'm not going to casually play Mario Kart by myself. So I'd be interested to see if it comes out. If there is a Switch 2 that just lets me know I need to trade in my Switch sooner rather than later, so I can get as much as I possibly can. Eric, I know you did finally get your son a Switch in 2022 or 23, one of those two. It was either last year or a couple of years ago. Anything Nintendo can do to get you to go over there and play something, I don't know what it would be.
No, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like the Switch either. Like, I know my brother had a lot to say on what did I miss. Anytime I've touched the joystick of the regular Switch, or my son has the Lite, I don't like the way this feels. Like, handheld wise, I think it's a little overrated. I
agree.
It's just, I the only one that would have been there is Zelda, and even that I can acknowledge. There has been some interest. Like, I wonder if it really is. Does it meet all that hype? But to play on the Switch to do it, I don't think so. No.
I played like maybe half an hour of Breath of the Wild, and then I returned the game because I got it pre-owned at GameStop. I was like, I'll give it a shot, and then I didn't like it. And I don't know. I'm
30
gonna play.
minutes into a game is kind of wild, though.
but I could also already tell.
I feel you, but also 30 minutes.
But I could also tell
time.
based on how the game was playing. And I also played that. What was that knockoff that came out on the Xbox and the PlayStation? It was like it was made by Ubisoft. It was basically Zelda. What was it called? Oh my gosh, it's gonna
the gods
Zelda knockoff PlayStation. I'm just gonna Google that. I bet you will come up immediately. Nope, it didn't. But I played that on the PS5, and I didn't like it. So I already knew kind of like I had an idea of how the gameplay. Immortals, yeah, like Rise of Gods or something like that. And I already knew that gameplay loop, and I had also just come off of playing. Like a game like Horizon, where I play the shit out of that and pour hours and hours into that. So none of the Zelda games have ever been for me. So it's Pokemon or bust for Nintendo on my side, and they don't want to give us what we want. Give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
Give me what I want, and they won't do it. So
they haven't sucked you over with like Fortnite.
Oh, I play the shit out of. We have an ungodly amount of hours on Fortnite, but we play on the PlayStation. So
that's fair.
So we have no reason to do it on the Switch. And just like Eric said, I don't like that the controller. I don't like playing with the.
To be honest, if I wasn't already so dedicated on Fortnite on my PlayStation, I would go play it on my Xbox. Like, I would love to play it on. Yeah, it's a better controller. It's always been superior, in my opinion.
But don't. Like, you just link it with your Epic account.
You can, but all of our friends are playing on PlayStation, so we all get in the PlayStation party as opposed to Discord. Okay. So it's just easier.
That makes way more. I was so confused. I was like, "What are you talking about? You can play it on your Xbox and keep all your stuff, Eric."
We acknowledge that the more steps I have to take to do something, the less likely I am to do it. So
so
that's fair.
You said connect what? I'll just stick with what I got.
Yeah, no. The amount of troubleshooting to get his account, his Discord account linked to his Xbox account, I was like, again, that's why you're older than me now. So, what other games do we?
It's not that I can't do it. I just don't want to do it. It's a want.
That's again a similar attitude. What other games do we want to highlight here? I know, Dylan, you technically only brought up Dragon's Dogma, and then we kind of ran with it. But what other game? And also, you brought up, what was it? Hellblade 2, which is, I think, a game I don't think I'll get. I have, I get scared very easily. I don't think that's going to be something that I'll go into, which is also preventing me from playing Alan Wake 2, because I know there's just constant jump scares throughout the entire game. And I'm like, I'm just going to have to watch Eric play it or something. So, but what else have you highlighted or circled on your end?
I've got Avowed pulled out.
It's one of my games.
Yeah, and someone counterpicked it. Eric, did you counterpick it?
I think Eric did. Because I called it Skyrim with guns.
And if I'm not going to get another Elder Scrolls game this year, that made me mad. So I kind of reacted out of emotion.
That ain't coming out.
It is.
We're gonna do like Foresight 2028 before we talk about Elder Scrolls.
It's that game may not ever come out at this point. But Avowed is kind of Obsidian's take on the Elder Scrolls. Obsidian is they made Fallout New Vegas, which is usually held up as like the best, if not one of the best Fallout games. And so they've already shown that they can take a concept that Bethesda has made and make it good or better than Bethesda themselves can. And it's set in like their own universe. Like that's really the only difference between this and the Elder Scrolls is I think it's called Pillars of Eternity, that they've created. They've put out 2 games that have both reviewed decently in that universe. So it's a cool universe. And I watched kind of the trailer and the deep dive for that game and am more excited for it. I was a little skeptical at first. I thought it looked really cool, but I was like, I don't know. Like it's on Game Pass, so like I'm gonna get it and play it because it's free. But I wasn't sure how into it I was gonna get, but after watching the trailers and kind of just seeing like, oh, okay, this actually does seem pretty interesting. This does seem pretty cool. I like kind of the leveling system they've got in it. I like the combat system they've got in it. It seems like it'll be a lot of fun to play. So that's one that's on my radar. I know it's on your radar as far as Fantasy Critic, but is that one you guys see yourselves playing?
I think, again, because as I was getting prepped for the draft, and it did come up, and I watched a couple videos on it. It is a game that I think if it gets reviewed well and if it has a gameplay loop that I think I could get into, then yeah, it could certainly be something that's on my board. I think the one thing with gaming that's similar, obviously, with TV shows and movies, is stuff will come out of nowhere. Like if we came to this episode and you were to tell me that, hey, come January 28th, you'll have like 20 hours sunk into this Pokemon clone with guns, I'd have been like, what are you talking about? So you just never know.
have you built a gun yet? I still have not built.
I have a gun
like 20 or 30 hours in.
I have a gun for my Lift Monk.
Yeah,
that's I don't have one personally though.
I've got a couple of Pokemon with like an assault rifle or and I'm just like, okay, I guess.
And Eric can't give his pals guns because they're stuck in the wall. So
I'm nowhere close to where you guys are.
I have base. Yeah, you just need to move it somewhere else. But no, only the pals have weapons. Yeah. I've upgraded to the crossbow. I'm to the crossbow now, but that's about it. So, which is significantly stronger than the bow and arrow, which is very nice. But that's all I've gotten to. Yeah. And I've beaten like one boss. Yeah, same. And that's about it. So
and we're talking about opening a server. So
yeah,
nice.
So we'll have to jump into that if once they add more stuff. I mean, it's early on, early access. So as the game kind of evolves, and that's why like the uproar over this is so strange, because there's so many Pokemon clones. Like Temtem was it in 2022? Temtem was the Pokemon killer in 2022, and now here we are with another one, and it's nothing like Pokemon other than the models.
It's basically just Arc. Survival Evolved.
Exactly what it is.
I think a lot of the uproar is people that like Pokemon realizing like, hey, Game Freak has really been shorting us on the because even this sort of like mediocre unfinished game is still better in my opinion than a lot of the more recent Pokemon games.
I'm not going to play Arceus. I'll play this before I play Arceus or the other ones that have come out. And I'm not touching those. Yeah.
And so it's very much like, oh, okay, you guys have really been just kind of like feeding us trash. And so
this is trash. Yeah. Yeah. Eric, as far as Avowed goes, I know obviously you're pretty upset. You're not going to be able to play Elder Scrolls anytime soon. You also have counterpicked it. Are those two things that would prevent you from playing Avowed, even if it did scratch that itch? Like, one, it could get you negative points if you screwed up, and then two, again, you're not getting the game you really, what we really want. Like, you're not going to get the game that you want to play.
Yeah. No. So I mean, that didn't stop me from playing Hogwarts Legacy. And again, once again, I'm gonna
Eric's game of the year 2023.
Preface, don't just say that. Preface, it was my game of the year. My favorite game that I played. I'm fully aware of Baldur's Gate, Super Mario Wonder, Alan Wake 2, all these other games. I enjoyed this more. However, the hot take is I did enjoy Hogwarts Legacy a lot more than Spider-Man 2. And that is a legit feeling. But I did very much get hurt by that Hogwarts Legacy counterpick. If this game is anything like Skyrim, because I enjoyed that game, I'll play it, even if it gets me the negative points. I really just counterpicked it because I think there's more of a chance of it not releasing in the fall window, and I'm hoping it potentially
gets pushed into 2025.
To 2025, yeah.
Which is definitely a possibility. Like, I know they're definitely targeting it, but at this point, like, Xbox has taken enough hits that they can't afford to miss, in my opinion. So they need this game to come out and be good. So if it's not at that level yet, like especially after Starfield, I think they're like, we gotta push this to 2025.
They had a rough year because I had every opportunity to buy a heavily discounted Xbox Series X over the holidays, and there's no reason for me to do so. Like, what would I would be sitting here right now with a $500 console running Pal World, and I wouldn't have been a happy person. I would not have been very happy with that.
You might have. I don't know. But
I don't know, because I'm perfectly happy playing it on my Series S, and it's running just fine. Well, as fine as Pal World can run it in its current state. But
the issues you're running into are not because of the Series S.
Right, exactly. So, I had every chance to get it for like a heavily discounted. It was like $300 on Amazon almost every day. Yeah. And I was like, I just have no reason. I would rather save this money and buy a PC, which is what my goal is in 2024. Yeah. And eventually do that. So, they definitely need a win, because it's not going to be like Flight Simulator 2024. Yeah. Like, that's not going to be like their big, what they're going to hang their hat on.
No.
So, But yeah, because we need to. I mean, Eric, we talk about all the time. We want to use the Xboxes more, but we just there's no reason for us to as of right now. Like major.
I was
reasons.
gonna say Microsoft is also okay if you just buy a PC. Phil, that's fine.
That's
they
true.
Still win.
Yeah, that is true. So I'm gonna throw my Mac out the freaking window so I can get rid of that. So it's a win-win for them, no matter what. Eric, are there have you highlighted anything or circled anything that might possibly like catch your eye? Again, we joked about it, but we're gonna be playing a lot of Fortnite in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, again, I do feel like there's gonna be some more games that came out recently that I'll be playing this year for the first time. That's at least a goal of mine. Yeah. But the game that if it came out, which it's already been counterpicked, so nobody else agrees that this is going to come out. But Star Wars Outlaws, that's the game. That's the game. And it's just because, Phil, I've moved so much into anime as like my obsession, my fandom obsession. But it all started with a franchise, a little known franchise called Star Wars. And it just always, it always holds such a special place in my heart. And I still have those like deep obsessions to it. So when I see a Star Wars game come out and I'm like, ooh, bounty hunters and all this stuff, like that just gets
axolotl.
The axolotl. That just gets the juices flowing. And I feel like if that game came out, it would be one that I would play.
Interesting choice of words. I didn't like that. Dylan also felt the same way.
Juices, guys. Don't you feel the juices?
Could have picked a lot of other phrases other than that, but.
Yeah, it gets me.
No, I do hope it comes out. I don't think it's going to, but I do hope it's good because I really wanted to love the most recent Star Wars games, and I just kind of I was like, okay, these are fine, especially the second one, even though the second one, for all intents and purposes, is better. But I just found myself like not getting into them like I really wanted to. So I do think Outlaws could be that game. Yeah. But. Yeah, I mean, honestly, as far as a game that we might play together, like I think it's up to 4 player, Eric, and unfortunately it got counterpicked for you also, is South Park Snow Day, because it could be fun. It could just be a fun game, and maybe it'll come to Game Pass, and like we'll get some people in there and throw snowballs or whatever the hell is going on in that game. I don't know, but it could be fun. The first 2 games are enjoyable. And
that game will get the juices flowing, if you know what I mean.
No, you can stop. You can
no, okay.
You can stop saying that. No, that's so. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Fortnite. Hopefully, if they get the instruments, integrated with Fortnite, I think that'll be cool. Huge, especially for nostalgic purposes. I think it's been, even though of course Rock Band has been still putting out songs up until recently, as Andrew pointed out on What Did I Miss the other day. It is. I think we're far enough removed from that era where people are like, "Oh yeah, I'll jump in and strum a plastic guitar or some fake drums and do that." So I think that's a good sign. But yeah, other than that, like I'll play the typical sports games and I'll get mad at them. I think WWE 2K24 has the potential to be much better than or continue to improve on the WWE 2K games, which have been getting better over the last couple of years. And then just like even though I did joke about it earlier, like I am the most scared for NCAA 2025 or whatever it's going to be called. Yeah. But I am cautiously optimistic that it could be really good based on how different college football is now as opposed to how it was in what was the last game, 2014. So we're talking about over a decade. So, but then other than that, like I'll begrudgingly buy Madden and 2K or NBA 2K and all that
You're
stuff.
You're part of the problem, Phil.
I am, but like it's the only option. It's the only football game. It is. It really is. So yeah, but those would be the main ones, and then I guess whatever Call of Duty game comes out this year, which we didn't play Modern Warfare 3. That never happened. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah. I bought it, so it's fine.
Well, he wanted the beta, and understandably didn't want to go to a GameStop to get a code, so he just purchased the digital version of the game, and none of the rest of us did.
Mind you, I just made the purchase because Phil's been in this kick the last like 2 years where we'll just like play the Call of Duty games like 3 to 6 months late. So I just bought it, but there's like no indication that we're gonna play Modern Warfare 3
unless it's one of the free games this year.
So is it Modern? Good. In the last 5 years, it's been a bad bet for me with games.
I mean, Microsoft did pick up Activision. Call of Duty is an Activision game. It will likely come to Game Pass sometime this year. So There's a chance, Eric. There's a chance, except for like you could have just got Game Pass and
I bought it on my PlayStation too, so that's
okay.
That didn't help.
So it's on there. It's just
it's there.
Stuck on there.
So is my $100 copy of Back 4 Blood. We're gonna play that.
Yeah, remember how you made? So Dylan's never heard this story. So Eric bought the $100 version of Back 4 Blood.
That's bold.
Which included
that was a big
3-day early access. And
Ooh.
none of us bought the 3-day early access Back 4 Blood. So we were like, why didn't you just buy the original?
And you remember how I said the harder things are, the less likely I'll do it? Well, if I have to play it by myself, I'm not playing it. So
it turned out to be an absolute disaster. And I also bought that on digital.
The launch was
bad.
Yeah, the launch was awful. And we
it's
played
still
it for
not
less
good,
than
I don't
30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty bad.
Yep.
Not great. But Eric, Dylan, anything else you wanted to highlight in the gaming world before we go to just kind of like miscellaneous stuff that we maybe want to talk about?
I'll acknowledge that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out. I don't own a PlayStation 5, so I could care less.
What? You don't?
But just I have a PlayStation 4, but I have not upgraded it to a PlayStation 5. It's my version of Phil's Series S. But
except the PlayStation, like you can actually do stuff on the PlayStation, like that's
like play a mediocre Spider-Man game. Man, I'm sure.
You know what? Point taken.
As the farther I've gotten away from Spider-Man 2, I'm just like, oh, man, it was. Should have been better. It was like whatever the version, like the video game version of like playing it as safe as they possibly could. But yeah, anyway, you continue.
So I'll acknowledge that just so that you guys don't get a bunch of comments like, "Oh, fake people," like
fake gamers.
Yeah. And then Elden Ring is gonna have some DLC this year. So I am super pumped for that if it comes out when it comes out. I personally am like the Warhammer universe, and so I am excited for Space Marine 2. Will it be good? I don't know. Eric hopes it is because he picked it up.
Please.
But I don't know if it will be good, but it looks cool. And then I play a lot of Destiny 2. Not as much recently, but like Destiny 2 has a new expansion coming out. Baldur's Gate may get an expansion this year. Diablo 4 is supposed to get an expansion this year. So just some of the like DLC, some of the expansions I'm excited for, just because it's like I enjoyed this game. I am looking forward to more of it. So yeah.
And we already got remember like 2023 had Rogue Company. Like these games are going to come out of nowhere that are just going to click with people, and we already have one here in January. So it's always exciting, even though like on surface level it doesn't seem like there are a lot of mainline like mainstream games coming out. There will be something that takes this particular genre by storm, and we'll go from there. But Eric, did you have any other games you wanted to highlight, or can we kind of wrap up and go into some of the other sphere of 2024?
No, we can definitely wrap up and jump into the miscellaneous section. So anything else is on the table for 2024 that we're excited for. Phil, you want to go first on this?
Yeah, mine are all sports, so they're pretty easy. So one's the Olympics. We're in an Olympic year, and the Olympics is always fun because you'll get like a star that will be made like in multiple sports. We'll get to learn more about this person, and we'll get a lot of cool stories about how where they came from and all that kind of stuff. So an Olympic year is always a lot of fun. It's always fun to see how the NBA players will struggle to beat international players. That's always a good time as of late. So that'll be great. Eric, this will be the first year of the 12-team playoff, college football playoff, which I think has been much needed, although that's technically 2025. But we'll know the teams that are playing. We'll have 12 teams instead of 4, which has been needed for a very, very long time. And then the last thing, which is just a couple weeks away or about a couple months away, Eric, is WrestleMania. Will Cody Rhodes finish his story? Will we get that big payoff finally after 2 years of what we've waited for with Cody Rhodes coming back to the WWE? But those were the 3 main ones. I did see that like we are returning to the moon in 2024. I think it's like, I don't know if that it's a manned spacecraft though. So I think they're sending like an AI controlled ship up to the moon, which, all that stuff is always really fascinating. But those were some of the things that I highlighted. Again, most of them are sports related. And then see how the Jaguars are going to disappoint us again in 2024 as we continue to give them money as season ticket holders.
Dylan, what did you have to look forward to as we wrap it up for 2024?
Yeah. So they just kind of a smattering of different things. D&D is getting an update. Dungeons and Dragons, it's getting back in the day they had, 3rd edition and then 3.5. So this is kind of 5.5. That's supposedly coming out this year. So I'm excited to see kind of what they do, how they change it up there. But then also just outside of Wizards of the Coast, D&D products, there's a ton of really cool, just third-party publishers putting out Dungeons and Dragons stuff that seems really exciting. So I'm interested to see, I don't know if you guys were saw the big, about a year ago, Wizards of the Coast fucked up, and they were trying to kind of lock down all the licensing around Dungeons and Dragons, and we're trying to take away the licensing that people use to make compatible products. And so in a big reactionary move to all of that, everyone has kind of shifted away from Dungeons and Dragons official stuff and has now they've created their own version of the license with all of the copyrighted stuff removed, which is mostly just names of things. And so they've just kind of gone in and changed the name. So we are seeing the kind of fruition of all of that now, where all of that stuff is getting ready to come out in the next 6 months, where it'll kind of really open up things, and you'll get a chance to kind of see what people are able to do with that. So I'm excited about that. That seems very cool. I have on here the Department of Truth is a comic book series that's been going on. It's been on hiatus for a little bit. It's pretty much what if conspiracy theories were kind of true, but it's more of a collective, if enough people believe that the world is flat, then maybe the world is flat. And so the Department of Truth is we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. And so it's a cool series. And I'm hoping that it comes back this year. I'm not 100% that it's gonna. I've got a couple of podcasts on here. Both of these have already started in January, but I'm excited for them to continue. So the first one is the Magnus Archives, which is an anthology horror podcast. And so the original run of it finished a few years ago. But the new season of it basically just started. So that's exciting. And then it's a show called Morning Somewhere, which is kind of just a morning show version in a podcast, but it's Bernie Burns and his wife, Ashley. He used to be the head of Rooster Teeth. He was one of the co-founders of Rooster Teeth. And so maybe 5 or 6 years ago, he retired from that. And so he's been kind of he was always one of my favorite parts of their podcast that they had. And so this year, end of December, beginning of January, they came back with their new morning show, which is just 20-minute tidbits of hey, here's us just kind of BSing, and it's really nice. It brings a lot of the vibes of the old Rooster Teeth podcast, which I was a fan of. So that's back, and I guess the final thing I'm excited for is I will hopefully be done with school this year. I will finally be finished, and so fingers crossed.
That is an exhausted band that you guys just heard.
Yes.
That's what that's.
Yes, it's been so long. It's been so long, but we are at the end is in sight, and hopefully we'll be done. That's probably the biggest thing that I'm excited for in the other category, because be nice to not have to do that BS anymore.
Full-time podcasting.
Yeah, we're all going to quit our jobs. We're all gonna
So
yeah, you need to do that so you can attend the 2024 Super Bragger Bros Cinematic Universe meetup, wherever that we decide.
Yes.
Whenever we decide,
We
that's coming back if it does. Eric, I also just want to point out before you go, you said the Lions lost, so you definitely jinxed them. They lost by 3.
Crazy, dude. Crazy.
They lost 34-31. It was 24-7 when we started recording, just so you guys know.
I did check my phone very quickly. The 49ers were up by 10 at one point. So
yeah, it was 34-24. I was
calling
keeping
it one of the biggest comebacks ever in playoff history. So
Great job. Now we have to watch Chiefs night. Well, we don't necessarily have to because we'll be busy at a convention that we'll probably mention here.
But we have to hear about the Chiefs and the Niners, which is
that's true.
Not great. The Ravens shot the bet on national television. I'm surprised we haven't had too many overlaps, honestly. So a couple ones that I kind of found here. I'll do some, I guess, honorable mentions for the TV portion that I missed earlier. And then I'll jump into some things I looked up that, to your point, Dylan, you kind of don't know some of these things until you have to do an episode about it. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's this year. So TV-wise, obviously, Phil mentioned earlier, I don't like to watch anything that's not animated. Well, that's not true because The Bear Season 3 is likely going to be coming back this year, and I will be watching it. Bear Season 2 had 2 of my favorite episodes. One, probably all-timer, but 2 of my favorite episodes of the year. Anime-wise, some returning anime that's coming back. Of course, it wouldn't be me without bringing up My Hero Academia Season 7. Season 6 had a strong return to form, and we are starting to head into essentially the finale of the series that's coming sooner than later. So I think this will be a really strong start to Season 7 where they're going. And then finally, when it comes to anime, this will literally go over both of your heads, but there's a show called Tower of God for anybody that's listening. First season was very, very strong. Didn't know if we'd get a Season 2, but it is coming out this year, and I'm super excited for it. As far as things that I didn't really know that I just thought were interesting, now I'm kind of looking forward to. We get an extra day this year, guys. Get excited. It's February 29th. Leap year, baby. I don't know who's excited for that, but if you are...
people who were born on February 29th, that get a birthday this year.
Kudos to them. Apparently, there will be a total solar eclipse, which I thought was just kind of a neat thing. And we kind of already knew this news, but Mickey's going public kind of this year.
Oh, yeah.
So all of the things that have already been in the works and what's to come, I think is going to be really interesting. At the very least, we're going to get some interesting meme-worthy stuff like the Winnie the Pooh horror film.
No, they're already doing Mickey film
already.
The same studio.
Exactly.
And that movie is terrible. I've seen it on the the kill count.
Yep. I unfortunately only watch animated stuff. Phil, for some reason, watches trashy horror flicks with Winnie the Pooh.
Some of them are good. Some of them, the kill counts are good. Speaking of the kill count, I'm also looking forward to meeting them at Spookala in Tampa this year. So, and also Melissa Barrera is going to be there, which is a huge get for that convention. So between like Kihi Kwan and Melissa Barrera and the Dead Meat team, who knows who else we'll get to cross paths with, along with the voice actors we get to meet this year, Eric, and all that stuff. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, and of course, we'd be remiss we bring it up, but we're about to hit con season. So Brick City Anime Festival here in a couple of weeks from this episode releasing here in February. Then we also have cons in March, June, September. It just doesn't end. So we got a lot going on. All of the cons that we're a part of, stick with us. And I'm sure Phil will get into where you can find all of our stuff here in a moment. But yeah, we got a lot to look forward to, Phil, this year. And like we talked about before, we're also trying to increase that a little bit at the very least this year. So be on the lookout. Yeah,
it's it's going to be another jam-packed year from obviously the entertainment world, but also just things where we're going to try it with the podcast and continue to evolve, and not only here, but also excited to see what's going to happen at Friendly Neighborhood Gamers. So Dylan, as we kind of wrap up this episode, let us know what's going on over on your show, and also anything else you want to highlight that is coming up in 2024 for you guys.
Yeah. So we are hitting the ground running this season. We've kind of just finished up sort of all of our episodes that were kind of wrapping up 2023, and so we're kind of like spinning up, like, okay, here we go, 2024. The first of which of those you guys were on the Fantasy Critic Draft, which is like fantasy football but for video games. And so if you guys are interested, that's a great place to like kind of get an idea of who we are, what we do, and you can see Phil and Eric on there as well. And so that's over. We've got it in podcast form if that's how you prefer things. We've also got it on our YouTube channel, which is Your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers at YouTube. And so we've also got, just Andrew and I met. We've got some things kind of planned out for the next few months. We're trying to we kind of reorganize how we're doing our YouTube channels and came up with a few different like sort of themes for videos that we want to try to make, and then we've also got a month of potentially like some Dark Souls coming later on in the year, which we're excited about. So getting a chance to like the Dark Souls games are some of our favorite series, and so getting a chance to like sit down and just kind of deep dive into potentially all three of those games for an entire, like, kind of spend an entire month just doing it, is something that we're excited to try out. So if you're interested in that, that's something we've got coming up. So, but as always, we appreciate your guys having us on and kind of giving us a chance to throw it out there. If your listeners have more space in their time in their busy lives for another podcast, we appreciate you maybe checking us out. So
yeah, January has been a fun month getting to collab with you guys, and it will not be the last time, as 2024 will have plenty of surprises that will be thrown our way of course, not only gaming but just pop culture in general. As you guys can see and hear in this episode, we have a lot of stuff that we're passionate about that we are looking forward to. And if you want to find obviously more episodes of the Wait For It podcast, but also Friendly Neighborhood Gamers, everything will be in the show notes of this episode. The Linktree link for us is where you can find the most important stuff, like our social media pages. Most important ones to follow will be TikTok, Instagram, and our Discord page. Make sure you keep up with that. If you want to support the show, you can do that a couple of different ways. One, you can head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give Friendly Neighborhood Gamers and the Wait For It podcast 5 stars. It is one of the best ways you can support podcasting in general. So even if you're listening to another show, throw that 5-star review up there. It is extremely helpful. And you can share the content. Let us know you're watching, share a YouTube video, tag us on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be, and let us know, hey, check this episode out, or we appreciate you. We always love hearing feedback like that, so that is another good way to do so. You can also find us at these conventions that we were talking about here over the next few months. Our full schedule will also be available on social media. But if you find yourself wanting to maybe support the podcast a little bit extra, or joining a very, very exclusive and fun community, Eric will let you know how you can do that.
Yeah, so you can go directly to our Buzzsprout page and you can become a supporter of the show there, or you can take those funds and move them to Patreon, where patrons like Briar and Stefan are helping to keep the show running. You'll be able to get things like behind the scenes exclusive access and early access to episodes like this one. In fact, I'm going to kind of segue from my normal spiel here, because 2024 also has the Super Bracket Bros Season 6 returning. And me, Phil, I'm not sure if your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers are in it. Yes?
Yeah, we are.
So we got everybody on board jumping into this role-playing version of Super Bracket Bros. And in the Patreon portion, we'll kind of talk a little bit about our experience, because I have wanted to ask Phil specifically, because I knew he hadn't done it up until recently. Wanted to ask how that's been going. So with that being said, that is the end of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And whether you support us through one of those methods or everything that's free, the like, the comments, the shares, we truly appreciate it. My name is Mr. EricAlmighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino, and our guest, Dylan from Your Friendly Neighborhood Gamers. And please don't forget that we release new episodes on the podcast every Wednesday with bonus content on platforms like TikTok. And all you got to do is wait for it.
So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.